So welcome. It's just 9:30. For time purposes, we'll get started. I just wanted to make a few notes. We have Mariah here with us this morning. She is French speaking. So if anybody has any questions that they'd like to chat into her in French or English, she's here to help out and to answer any questions anybody's having. In addition to that, if anybody has any technical questions, feel free to email me. I'm going to pop my email into the chat. And again, I just wanted to highlight that Studio B does have a portal open for all Wave and Sendwave employees to access guided meditations, movement practices, and everything that we're doing live is recorded and uploaded there for future use. So please enjoy today's session, and thanks for joining us.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining in. And if you were here last week, then we've met. My name is Sarah Jane. I'm happy to be here for Studio B and glad to be continuing on this journey with you. So I want to help you take a pause. Let's let this half hour be a pause in your day, and to help create the container to collectively sort of set the tone for this pause. I invite you to drop into chat your name, where you're located, what time it is where you are located, and I'll do the same. Just getting a sense here of who we are as a group before we start. And those of you in the US or Canada or Australia, New Zealand, I'm not sure if there would be anybody from Sendwave or Wave in Australia or New Zealand, but in any case, if you're in those countries and you happen to know the indigenous name of the land you're on or the name of the peoples who stewarded the land for centuries, you can drop that in. Great. So I'm just looking here. We've got a lot of East Coast US, Seville, Lisbon, Thailand. Oh, that's Paul. I remember Paul from last time. Great. Oh, thank you from Paul, who knows the name of the indigenous name for New Zealand, and put it in Seminoles. Someone is where the Seminoles stewarded the land for generations. Wonderful. Yes, Massachusetts and Wampanoag territory. I'm often in Boston when I'm teaching, and so that's where I often am, but not now. Now I'm in Haudenosaunee land. So thank you for joining in, and I'm really happy to be here. Yeah. And I think I have somebody who, for now, I'm going to ask everyone to mute, but we will, we'll have the chance to speak to each other in just a bit. I want to introduce a little bit about what we're going to do today. So thanks for helping me set the tone in terms of where we are, each of us geographically, and having a sense of each other. I just want to acknowledge it's such a privilege to gather, right? And to learn and to practice. And so because I'm a white person greeting you from the US, I want to acknowledge that while I'm teaching secular mindfulness, mindfulness is rooted in tradition and lineage, and it is Buddhist. And so these teachings were developed and stewarded for centuries, thousands of years by people of color. So last week we talked about mindfulness, what it is, why it matters. And if you were here, wonderful. If not, this is going to be a journey in and of itself for the next 25 minutes or so. So you haven't missed out. I'm glad you're here, and you can start where you are. And as I know already from the Sendwave and Wave group, there's a lot of wisdom and experience already with mindfulness in this group. So this session is called Anchoring and Balancing. So I'm going to deal with balancing first. So in balancing, when it comes to meditation, as you may know, We're really talking about how we want to be both at the same time relaxed and alert. So we want there to be a harmonious relationship between these qualities, and we don't want too much of one or too much of the other. And I'm just going to show you actually my favorite way of describing relaxedness, I would say. I always use the word ease when I'm guiding a meditation. And for alertness, I use the word vividness. But I'll probably throw in a whole bunch of words. But in any case, relaxedness, ease, settledness on the one hand, and alertness, wakefulness, liveliness, vividness on the other hand, are what we're really interested in balancing, particularly when we first come to meditation. So let's talk about what happens when you go too far one way and then the other, and then we're going to practice and play with this. So we antidote when we go too far in one direction, right? So if we feel too relaxed, we might get sleepy, we might be foggy, we might be lethargic, there might be a dull quality to the mind. And it might not be that in meditation we become too relaxed. It might be that we show up to meditation feeling sleepy, foggy, lethargic, or dull. So in these cases, if we show up in this way, or if it develops during our practice, then we antidote. So I have a slide. I don't think I'm sharing my screen, but since there's so many words here, I'd like to share my screen so you have a sense of this. Great. So as I said, too relaxed, sleepy, foggy, lethargic. So the antidotes, if you know you're like this when you come to your practice and you're going to have a meditation session, sit up. You know, it's like a posture of wakefulness is going to help you antidote that sleepiness. You can keep your eyes open. You might want to keep your gaze low and soft so as to restrict visual data when you're meditating, but your eyes open and your gaze steady will be useful. And a longer inhale, you know, to sort of give you that feeling of wakefulness. Inhales are energizing, so they can antidote being too sleepy. On the other hand, if you show up to meditation and your mind is reeling, you've had a busy day, there's stress present in the body, something stressful just happened, or if you're just kind of restless, I mean, it doesn't have to be that dramatic, right? So if that's the case, then you might want to lie down for your meditation session, just to start to bring that feeling of settledness into the body and therefore the mind. You might close your eyes rather than keeping your eyes open but gaze low. And you might, for a spell, take up a longer exhale so that exhale can have a quality of releasing and relaxing and settling. So, antidoting. And I will, when I guide our meditation in a few moments, remind you of these antidotes to see if you can use them. And as I said, I want to acknowledge that there are folks in the room who probably already know what they're doing here. And so you know that the result when you capture, cultivate, or finally find this balance, we call it attentional balance, right? So this balance happens in the body and in the mind. There's this attention that happens. And the result is really steadiness. So I like to say that there's this ancient formula that is equal parts relaxedness and alertness results in steadiness. And why not go for that? And ultimately, I love to talk about how the result is calm abidance. So calm abidance is actually a translation for the name of this kind of meditation. The original writings about this kind of meditation were in the Pali language, and shamatha is the name of this practice. It's a sister practice that intertwines with mindfulness, this attentional balance that really supports us in opening up to mindfulness. So calm abidance, that's what we are going to practice right now. So I'm going to stop my share so I can see all of you. Great. So I have a bowl here that I'll strike. So you hear the sound of a bell once to start. And I will guide lightly, and then I will strike the bowl 3 times to end. And knowing that we are about to meditate, check in, see how you feel. If you are, we're all in different time zones, right? So the time of day doesn't necessarily dictate how we feel. So if you are lethargic, if your energy is a little low, sit up for this meditation. But if your energy is a little too high and there's restlessness, you can lie down. Okay. So settling in, purposefully placing your body in a position that will be conducive to you both relaxing and remaining alert. You might close your eyes, resting your eyelids. Or you might keep your eyes open, but in that case, keep your gaze low and steady and soft. Okay, so let's bring our attention to the breath. We used breath last week. Many people use breath in their meditation as an anchor. And let's just see how the breath feels in the body right now. It might be easily felt in the belly or in the chest or around the nose. So we're not interested in changing the breath or making it special in any way. We're just seeing how it is. And sort of collecting of our attention around the breath. Sometimes it's immediately effective and we have this sense of coming to center, being really present here and now. And other times endeavoring to collect our attention around the breath simply reveals that the mind is too busy. There are other things going on. Not a problem. You might note that busyness of mind as there being too much alertness in the system. Overly alert, overthinking. And so in that case, taking up an antidote, trying to settle, making sure the body is relaxed in your position, and maybe spending a little bit of time extending your exhales. So departing from this idea that we're not doing anything to the breath, just for a little while, for a spell as an antidote, extending your exhale may bring some settledness to an overly busy system, body-mind system. So take me up on that only if you feel overly alert, too busy. If there is excitation present. Take me up on extending the exhales. They're longer and slower, leaving the inhales be. Okay, so maybe that didn't describe you at all. Maybe excitation is not what's happening for you. Maybe you arrived, or maybe over the course of our meditation here, there has developed a sense of lethargy, sluggishness. In that case, remember you can open your eyes. Keeping your gaze steady though. You can bring your attention to the tip of the nose. Really feel your inhales and maybe extend them, emphasize them, draw them in long. Let your inhales give you a sense of liveliness and clarity. Maybe neither antidote is necessary for you right now, and you feel physically and attentionally balanced, equal parts relaxed and alert. We take up the antidote, particularly the extension of the breath, inhale or exhale, whichever you needed, only for as long as it's needed to give us a little bit of support and balance, to find some harmony in the system. And then we let that go and observe the breath calmly abiding. So I invite you to shift in your position, lift your gaze, and I would love it if you would be willing to turn your video on and even come off mute and share. If you are already a meditator, what do you know about attentional balance? Is it available to you very often? Or if this is new for you, was there anything you noticed or want to ask about? Hi. Wonderful. So just popcorn style, feel free to come off mute and share what you're thinking. We have a couple minutes for this, and then I'll talk about anchoring for a couple of minutes as well, but let's see what's here. I bet there's a lot of wisdom in the group.
Yeah, hi, this is Stephen. Just one thing with attentional balance is I find important is like the willingness to update in the middle of the meditation, if many times if necessary, to notice if like the energy changes and not to just go with the story that, oh, yeah, really restless going into the sit, so I should keep antidoting that. It can shift like to calming, and then maybe overly calming, right? Like to oftentimes like meditating can kind of give me the opportunity to realize that my body and mind are actually really tired underneath this like top layer of restlessness and hectic mind. So
Oh
updating.
man, that is so true. It's so true. We don't really know how we feel until we kind of start meditating. And then I do that overcompensation. Is that what you were giving voice to? Like we think, oh, I'm so restless, I'm really going to focus on settling it.
Yeah. Or overcompensating, causing a shift, or just whatever causes the shift. Just being willing to, being alert, like being aware enough to notice when the energy level changes, so then to drop the antidote or even change to a different one.
Yeah, yeah. I'm thinking of the story that's in the Buddhist suttas about the raft that maybe you know, Stephen. It's they say that there was a man who built a raft to get across a raging river because there were no bridges and there was no other way to go across. And he built the raft and he got across the river. And then he was so attached to this raft that he had created to fix the situation that he kept carrying it over land with him on the rest of his journey. So picking up an antidote and then using it beyond when it's useful is what that illustrates. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the raft. It's a good one. Thank you, Stephen. Awesome. Yeah. Anyone else?
I almost always have more the feeling of restlessness, of feeling overwhelmed by too many things to do, of having it difficult to quiet my mind. And when I've meditated before, I've almost always tried to sit up, and I've laid down a few times and always felt like it might be wrong, like I might be allowing myself to relax too much, or would not be present enough. And so it was really interesting for me to learn that I can actually use that as an antidote. And I found that is quite useful and powerful, because I think I rarely am in the sort of fatigued state.
Sure. Yeah, I think that's probably most of us. I offer both antidotes in situations, but I don't know about you guys, but most of the time I'm coming overstimulated to practice. Yeah. So the Buddha taught meditation in 4 postures: sitting up, lying back, standing, and walking. So if that helps, yeah. And it's skillful. Skillful means, build the raft, do what you need to for as long as it's useful. Yeah, I'm glad you're feeling into that. And I want Joyce, in your comment too, like what I'm hearing is that you are really attuned, and Stephen too, really attuned to what's going on for you. Like you're not noticing just sort of the gross overlayer of how you are energetically, but there's this refined mindful attention that you're applying. You really are feeling your system, so you know whether something's helping too much, etc. It's really cool to hear about. Thank you. Anyone else?
I'll jump in. I thought even the concept of an antidote was interesting, because I feel like when I've meditated in the past, it's much more about just observing and kind of trying to not react to what's, like, just being aware of what's happening. And so this idea that you can kind of choose either different postures or different breathing strategies in response to how you're feeling is kind of interesting to me.
Yeah, thanks for that comment. Yeah, it's so as I said, the name of this is calm abidance, or shamatha. It's not exactly mindfulness. We were using mindfulness of breathing, but then we were tampering with things. And as you noted, mindfulness is receptive. It's not active. It doesn't tamper with what it sees. So this is a supportive, I would say, sister practice to mindfulness. And a lot of people will use it intertwined with it. So if you are doing a mindfulness practice on your cushion or your mat or your chair, and it just seems as though you're not able to open your awareness and be receptive because there's imbalance in the system, then you can go to this technique or method, and then you can go back to mindfulness. So great. You use them both. They are mutually supportive. Cool. Thanks. Anyone else? Okay, so I'm just going to quickly look at the time. 5 minutes. So as I said, this session is called anchoring and balancing. And so we just spent most of it talking about balancing, but that's because we've we've sort of incorporated anchoring as we've gone. We've been anchoring our attention to the breath. We did last week anyway, if you were with me, and we started that way in this meditation, obviously. But I just want to note that your anchor does not need to be the breath. And this is important, you know, for some of us. Some people don't have a great relationship to the breath. Some people are not feeling well and have problems breathing. And the idea of the breath being what you must use as a method is just not going to work. The breath is a wonderful anchor because it's always with us. It happens involuntarily. It happens in the body, so we're walking around with it. It happens in the present. It connects us to the nervous system. It has effects on the nervous system to bring attention to the breath. Wonderful things, but not the only possibility. So particularly if you're feeling ungrounded or you're not well. So I had COVID and I just dropped mindfulness of breathing entirely because it was too stimulating to my system. I could breathe okay, but I was worried about not being able to. So other anchors, the hands and feet. The hands and feet are supposed to be really great if you are chronically stressed, if there's even trauma in your system, the effects of trauma. If you settle into a meditative posture, sitting up or lying back, and you draw your attention right into your feet or to your points of contact with whatever is touching what's below, and you just feel the sensations, the texture, the temperature, the sense of density or spaciousness in your tissues that are touching what's below, that is a really grounding thing. It's a wonderful anchor because also those sensations will shift, they'll change, they'll move. So like the breath, it's kind of always changing in the present. So if you track it with your attention, you can stay here now. So sensations in the body, hands alone, feet alone. People use visual anchors, right? So I haven't seen it in a while, but I feel like in the 90s, I always saw a lot of people talking about candle meditations, right? So like the flame of a candle, a visual anchor, just keeping your gaze on one thing. So I guess I just wanted to make sure you know there are options. For those of you who are new to the practice, we hear about breathing all the time, but it's just not always appropriate. So, and that doesn't mean you don't meditate. Okay, so any comments on that? Any questions? Anybody use a different anchor other than the breath? Last week we used sound too, and a lot of people had stuff to say, right? Anyone? Stephen, were you going to say something?
Oh yeah, I was just gonna say I use sound as my anchor.
Like regularly, that's your go-to?
Yeah, yeah, I find the breath to just be a little bit too fraught. Like yeah.
Yeah, right on. Thanks for letting us know. Yeah. Anyone else? Okay. Well, we have 2 minutes left. So what I would like to do is sit for 1 minute together. It's like a drop out, drop in, drop out. I do it in a lot of meetings. I'm not going to guide. Just going to strike the bowl once, wait a minute, strike the bowl 3 times. So get into whatever position you'd like, use whatever method you'd like, antidote however you see fit. 1 minute counts. So for those of you who do not yet have a meditation practice, I encourage you to either try 5 minutes a day with a guided meditation, or no, let me switch that around. 5 minutes a day, maybe sitting in silence, trying out the methods that you're becoming exposed to, or 10 minutes a day with a guided meditation. Something like that to start. It does not take much. And we can check in about that next week. And you have lots of resources available to you through the Studio B portal. So to finish, I should let Gretchen remind you of how to access that.
Hi, just thanks again for everybody joining us today. Everybody should have received an email to log into the Studio B portal. I had mentioned earlier, there's a library of resources there, included guided meditations and movement practices, and all of our live sessions are recorded and uploaded for future access. So please take some time this weekend to go through it and treat yourself. Thank you.
Thank you. So nice to be with you all today. Thank you for your presence. Take care. Bye-bye.